Yo, what's going on, guys? So it seems like the last episode that I did where I was doing the Star Wars review for The Mandalorian got a lot of good reviews on it. Seems like a lot of you guys enjoyed it and really enjoyed what I had to say about it and enjoyed my little analysis and stuff like that. So guess what? I'm going to kind of make this into a weekly series. So I'm going to do every episode until the end of the season, and hopefully it picks up a little steam from here and there, and hopefully you guys really enjoy it and picks up a little more steam. But anyway, enough rambling. Let's get to the episode. So episode 6, The Tragedy, that's the name of the episode. So, and in this episode, from what we learned in the last one, we already kind of saw Mando and Grogu, aka Baby Yoda. I get it, fans. It's Baby Yoda. For the sake of the review, Grogu, all right? So, from what we saw in the last episode, they're really starting to create a bond. They're really starting to have a bond where, again, it's no longer transporter and cargo. It's like because of all the things that they've gone through and all the stuff that they've, had to go through together, they've really created a strong bond with each other. You can tell in this episode that Mando's really starting to take a liking to Grogu. And now that he knows his name, he's starting to call him that. He's starting to call him by his name, and you can tell that he gets excited. Like, he's having fun calling Grogu's name because it's almost like it's something that he's wanted to say for forever. He's like, I've never known your name, but now that I do, it's super crazy. I think he's really in awe by that. And he's even playing with Grogu now. He's interacting with him more. He's starting to be a lot more playful because in the previous episodes, Grogu's always right there, really young, really innocent, just really curious about the world, and he's just trying to mess with things. And Mando, he's treating Grogu like, no, don't be touching things, don't be touching that, get your hands off of this. And he was treating him kind of like a brat, like a little bratty kid that just didn't know any better. But now that you see in this episode, he's starting to interact with them more. It's no longer you're a burden to me, I want you to just sit there and just don't touch anything. He's actually interacting, playing with them now. He's got the little ball. Instead of stopping Grogu from touching it all the time, he's actually has it in his pocket now and uses it as a way to help him, train him a little bit. Here, take the ball, use the force, and concentrate on it. So that's really, really cool. And I really like that about them, is that you can just see it there, and you can kind of hear it in Mando's voice. And everyone knows Mando doesn't have a whole lot of he doesn't really have a whole lot of emotions in his voice when he talks. It's very monotone, very straight to the point, very just blunt. But here he has more of you can just hear the emotion in his voice in this episode where he's like, hey, don't you want to go learn some more Jedi stuff? Wouldn't you want that? And Grogu just kind of looks down, and you can just see he just has a lot of self-doubt still. So anyway, planet that they're going to, the one that Ahsoka told him to go put Grogu on with the scene rock, it's called Tython. Not that important, but it's this planet, some random planet, where for some reason, I don't know what qualities it has to the Jedi or why it's so mythical, but apparently this one spot, this one rock, you take Jedi there and somehow they get in touch with the Force. So he finally takes him there, puts Grogu on the rock, and he starts to tap into, at first he doesn't tap into the Force just yet. He's kind of playing around. Nobody really knows what the rock is, especially Mando, because he doesn't know anything about the Force. He doesn't know how this whole thing works. He just kind of assumes all right, if I put you here, something magical is supposed to happen. But while all that's going down, next thing you see a spaceship in the sky. And all Star Wars fans know, if you've been a diehard fan since day one, you know what this ship is. It's the Slave One spaceship. And we all know who that belongs to. That belongs to the man, Boba Fett. That belongs to Boba Fett. It's so iconic. It's almost iconic as the Millennium Falcon, Luke Skywalker's X-Wing. If you see that ship, Boba Fett. And it's so cool because throughout the beginning since the first episode, they've been teasing Boba Fett. You see his armor, you see the mysterious character at the end of the episode. You're like, holy crap, are we gonna finally get to see an interaction with Boba Fett and Mando? How's that even gonna go down? You got one of the OG Mandalorian, and you got the new guy on the block. Like, how are they going to interact? Are they going to fight each other? Or is there going to be some conflict? Is there going to be some tension? How is that going to go down? It's like a real cool, like, showdown Western where like the two gunslingers are just going at it and you don't know who's going to win that battle. Anyway, Mando sees the ship, knows that that's not good. And then I think right when he sees that, Grogu taps into the Force. He finally activates the rock. He's got this force field around him, this magical force field, and he starts getting busy with the Force. So while that's going down, Mando goes to pretty much confront whoever is in that ship, and then he sees him. It's an old, battered Boba Fett without his armor, but you can tell he's war-ridden, he's grizzled, he's really scruffy, and he didn't come to play. Homeboy came down to handle business. He's like, yo, where's my armor? I want it back. And of course, Mando doesn't know who this is, so he's asking him a bunch of questions. He's like, are you Mandalorian? Where's your allegiance to? Like, why do you want this armor? Boba Fett ain't backing down. He's like, I don't gotta tell you nothing. I want it back, and you're gonna give it to me one way or the other. So they're kind of having a little tension showdown, and the writers kind of dropped a couple of Easter eggs here. He mentions that the armor was his father's, and we all know, you watched Clone Wars, you watched Attack of the Clones, that's Jango Fett. So that was a nice little Easter egg right there. So they kind of have a little showdown, and then of course a character from last season comes back, Fennec. I don't know if you guys remember who that is, but that was the lady sharpshooter who Mando went on a mission with, and he thought she was dead, but it turns out she's not dead. She was alive, and I guess Boba Fett, nursed her back to health or whatever, and now they're kind of like a nice little space duo handling space bounties and all that crap. But while that's going down and they're kind of having their little showdown, another ship shows up, and of course it's full of Imperial stormtroopers, and Mando and Boba Fett, they make a deal. It's like, hey, you ensure the safety of this child, you help me fight these guys, I'll give you back the armor. Done deal. Get your stuff back, help me get this kid out of harm's way, and we're ready to rock. We'll have a little temporary alliance. So while that's going down, of course, they engage with the stormtroopers. They start fighting, and it's like a really cool battle. They start shooting, and we finally get to see Boba Fett in action. Because, like, as much as we all love Boba Fett, and he is the original Mandalorian, like, he really didn't do a damn thing in the original trilogy. Like, come on, let's be real. He didn't do a damn thing. He kind of stood in the back, was the guy with the cool armor. We didn't know anything about the guy. Matter of fact, we don't even get to know his name until like halfway through the second movie. But we finally got to see Boba Fett in action. Like, we got to see him get into a shootout. We saw him get into a fight, and oh my goodness, was it so badass. It was so cool. Like, the inner nerd in me, like the little kid that's always loved Boba Fett, just finally got to see Boba Fett in action. Like, yes, like this is what we've been wanting to see, like the original Mandalorian just handle business and just go kick some Imperial ass. So I loved it, seeing him in action. Oh my God, I couldn't pop any bigger than that. So while they're fighting, you see Boba Fett get a glimpse at Mando's spaceship, and he's just like, screw it. You know what? I want my armor back. I'm gonna go get it. While Mando and Fennec are busy, getting into a shootout, he shows up out of nowhere, suited and booted with his armor back, and oh my God, I was watching this episode with my dad, and we popped so big for that moment, because we got to see him gunsling. He was shooting everybody. It was so cool, like a old school timey Western gunslinger. Oh, it was so cool to see him all in his glory. Now, granted, this is an older Boba Fett. He's an old man. The armor doesn't fit too well. But you know what? That's cool. Like, he's not in shape, but he hasn't lost a step. The armor looks good. He's got a big old pot belly that's sticking out because the armor plate doesn't fit. But I love it, man. I love old man fat Boba Fett. It's so great. So while they're getting into a shootout, Moff Gideon, who happens to be up in the sky in this giant Star Destroyer looking thing, he sends down the dark troopers, which is, I'm guessing, is a bunch of droid stormtroopers. They go down, they go to the rock. The ceremony with Grogu on the scene rock is done, and they pretty much get him. They kidnap him. They go up to space, and Boba Fett tries to follow him. Realizes it's a failed mission. They finally get into the ship. They realize who it is. Boba Fett comes back down, and they finally agreed on something. They said, hey, we have a deal. Actually, this is what Boba Fett said to Mando. He's like, hey, we got a deal. You gave me my armor back, and I promised you I'm gonna ensure the safety of that child. Now, he doesn't have to. Boba Fett doesn't have any obligations to Mando at this point, but he's like, you know what? As my code of honor, I'm gonna respect my part of the deal, and I'm gonna help you out with it. So Boba Fett and Mando, little space duo, some gunslinging duo action. I'm all in. I'm stoked for that. Like, I can't wait to see those two dudes just handle business together. That's gonna be badass. And so they agree. They're like, hey, let's partner up. Let's go kick some ass together. You did me this favor. Let's go. So there's a couple of things that happen after that, but then the real cool part is now that Moff Gideon's got Grogu in captivity, he goes to check up on him, and as he goes to check up on him, he goes into his cell, and you see just Grogu just wrecking these two stormtroopers. Like, he's like choking them out. He's using the Force to bash them everywhere and throw them everywhere, which when I saw that, I thought that was really interesting. Because it shows that Grogu is conflicted with himself. Like, he's not all good and he's not all bad. He uses the Force to defend himself, and when he's scared, he's willing to do anything to ensure his safety. And it's so crazy because, like, we've always been told, Sith or dark side users, they use the Force to harm people, and then of course the Jedi, they use it as for protection and to help others. But now we're getting to see a Force user he's not good and he's not bad, and you're seeing him just using the Force to protect himself. So I thought that was really interesting because it's not a good thing and it's not a bad thing either. Like, he's defending himself, but at the same time, he's doing it in a really brutal and cruel way that we've never seen other people aside from the Sith do it before. So that was interesting. And when we see that, Moff Gideon gets a look at that and he's impressed. Like, he is stoked about that. He's like, wow, so this is what the power of the Force can do. Like, you can do extraordinary things with this kind of stuff. Like, now imagine a whole army with these abilities. Like, you would be unstoppable, right? And he's getting off on that. And he eventually has a little talk with Grogu as he's like exhausted from using the Force and he's ready to pass out. He whips out the Darksaber, kind of shows it off a little bit. You see Grogu try to reach out and try to take it from him, possibly trying to defend himself, and he's just so exhausted from using the Force, he just passes out. Eventually they hit him with a stun gun, and he passes out, and that's pretty much the end of the episode. Honestly, this episode was so good. I loved it. Up until this point, the Ahsoka episode was my favorite, but this one's like up there. This one's like really, really up there. The only complaint I have about this week's episode was that it was really, really short, and it had me wanting more. Like, the Ahsoka episode was really long, really dragged out, but I loved it. And this one was just like so fast paced, so in your face with all the action and stuff like that. Like, it had me wanting more, which in a way, I guess in a way it's a good thing, but oh man, like I wanted that episode to be at least an hour long, but it is what it is. I'll wait until next week to see how all that concludes. But yeah, that's probably my only nitpick about the episode is that I wanted it to be longer. I just needed more Boba Fett action, but I'm sure in the next one we'll probably get some more of that. But yeah, that was this week's episode, labeled The Tragedy. So Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. This one's a little bit longer than the last one because I had so much to talk about. Again, I rambled again. So please do the thing, do the whole YouTube thing, comment, like, and let me know what you guys thought about the episode. Tell me what I could do better in these kind of videos that I'm doing. See what you want me to talk about. And yeah, I'll appreciate all the feedback, and keep watching Star Wars.